Okay, my beautiful friends, I am going to get as literally as vulnerable as humanly possible. At least I feel like for me and my reality, my incarnation. So this is a two-part series about how everybody is psychic. Okay? And part one is going to be me explaining to you how I came to realize that I am psychic, and therefore how I believe we can all come to realize that. And part two will be more about like personally how you can access it, okay? And so I'm just going to tell you my story. I did not realize that I was psychic until later in my life. And for me, it was personally a lot to do with societal norms, the way I grew up, thinking that doesn't exist, that's impossible, thinking that humans only exist in the mind, the emotions, the physical reality. So I had no understanding, no teachings of other realms, of energies, of auras, of things that we could possibly see beyond what was physical, okay? I did, however, grow up in a haunted house, and that was like my only real opening and experience to other realms. Really grew up in the density of humanity, thinking that the only thing that existed was the earth and what I could physically see with my eyes. I had no idea I had a third eye. I had no idea about intuition. I had no idea about energy. But it was very apparent to me and my family on my mother's side, in my mom's house, my parents are split, in my mom's house, that there were ghosts that lived in the house, to the point that like didn't matter who you are, didn't matter who, like what your beliefs were, what your religion was, how much you were atheist or Christian, Catholic, whatever. Anyone who stepped into that house was completely a believer that there were ghosts in that house, or at least one very specific ghost, but there was two or more. Anyways, not the point. So that was all I really grew up with understanding. And even that, like a lot of people, like my dad's side of the family, were just like we didn't talk about it at my dad's, or they were just like, no, that doesn't exist. But they would believe in, they were Christian, they believed in God, they believed in angels, things like that. But the way the mind can understand those things is we all think that they're ethereal. They think that we never actually think that, oh, like if we believe in those things and those things exist, what else exists? Or how do those things exist? Is it just in heaven that we experience it when we die? Or is it that they're literally existing in the same reality that we are existing, just in a different vibrational frequency so that we can't see them? Anyways, so back to my story. So I grew up in a haunted house, and I had multiple experiences where I had interactions with ghosts. I had one very distinct, very specific memory where I wasn't thinking anything about it. I had just gotten out of the shower. I was going to say goodnight to my little brother, and I opened my bedroom door, and poof, like there was a complete figure, ghost, man standing in my doorway. And I remember not feeling afraid, nothing like that. I was very comforted. Like it felt like a guardian of sorts, but not for me, for my brother. And that was just like, I was like, oh, weird. I have a haunted house. I saw a ghost. Like, again, didn't think anything of it. Didn't think like there's anything different about my abilities. And again, I'd love to say that it's not like that I have different abilities than other people. It's that I believe in this incarnation I chose to be born with a closer access to them, which anybody can get to that point, that closeness, that accessibility. It's just about the steps of opening to it, the belief in it, the trust in it. And I will kind of help explain that by taking you more through my story. So I spent most of my life feeling very much, until like my mid to late 20s, feeling very much like, nope, I'm not psychic. Like, I believe that other people were psychics, or I was like, probably. Like, I didn't really think much of it. Didn't think much of mediums or psychics. My mom loved to watch ghost shows. I was kind of like, weird. Those are weird shows, but didn't really think much of it. Also, because growing up in a haunted house, that created a lot of fear for me around any of these experiences. And also, there was a lot of worthiness. I was like, I'm not special. Like, I'm not worth cool abilities. I'm not like, those don't exist for me. And so out of this worthiness topic, out of this fear, and also out of this, just it absolutely like not really being in my reality growing up. I didn't even know that it was like I had no experience of it being possible. I just pushed it down, right? And so I spent a lot of my life that way. Had a lot of really weird experiences, a lot of like signs, synchronicities, visions, knowings, feelings. And time again, I was just like, no, nothing's different about me. And so a couple like key moments that now that I identify as psychic, now that I realize that I'm psychic, I look back and I'm like, how many things did I have to experience in order to wake up, in order to feel worthy of living in a reality, in a life that was this beautiful and creative and amazing and layered. Also, to not be afraid of it, okay? And so I think that this is a lot of things that keeps a lot of people away from their psychic abilities, is we feel like we're unworthy. There's nothing special about us. We feel like we're terrified of the unknown. Anything we don't understand, we're like, hell no, that's scary. And, or we just literally didn't grow up in a reality where those things were talked about, experienced, so we have no ideas about how to access them, right? Or no ideas of to like what could be happening. And this was very much my experience. I had to fumble my way through my life, being like, did that just happen? Is that happening? And so it took many experiences. And so a few of them, one of them, I was in a breathwork ceremony. I had started traveling the world, started studying different spiritualities and religions. I was looking for just like, there has to be more to life, you know? And so it wasn't something that I grew up in. None of my family has ever traveled, really. Nobody, like all my family who was born and raised and stayed really pretty much in this like small town in the Midwest, in the United States. I have some family members that have moved out, but so I just felt this calling to start traveling and start to study and learn. That is very much part of who I am. So I have this YouTube channel because I love to collect wisdom and knowledge and share it. That is me. If you know me personally, you're like, yeah, I know. So I was in Colombia, and this breathwork ceremony came to me, all very serendipitously. No, let's go stay with synchronistically. And that is like kind of the magic of the universe, is that if we start to believe in the magic of the universe, if we start to open to these other realities, these other layers to life, things beyond what we can physically see and touch, the more it starts to work with us. If we see it, if we believe in it, the more it opens to us. It's like if we're ignoring it and we're like, no, nothing's magical, nothing is here to assist me. There is no God, there is no universe, there are no God and goddesses and angels and aliens and all these things. If we say no to these things, then we are literally putting up a wall to them. If you want to look more into that, you can check out my videos of We Are the Creators of Our Own Reality. I talk about this a lot. But so I had to very slowly start to get introduced to these things. So I slowly started to believe in serendipities and that the universe was guiding me, and that this universe was almost putting little breadcrumbs along my path to guide me. And that took years. And then I started traveling. And from that, sorry, I feel the sun hitting me. And from that, I was in this experience where I was doing breath work in Colombia. I think it was my first time ever doing breath work. This wonderful person come and be like, hey, I feel like you need this ceremony. And literally that's how it happened. And I was like, I listen to the universe when it does these things. So I'm like, cool. At least I've learned to. And so in this breathwork ceremony, it was like a 4-hour ceremony. We were in breathwork for a really long time. It was a very powerful experience. If you want to access your abilities, I definitely feel like breathwork is a great way to do it, especially if it's something that's led. If you are led by a facilitator or a teacher, and that way you can surrender. And you can do it online. You don't have to go to Colombia. You can do it in person, whatever feels right to you. So I was in this ceremony and I went through this huge, incredible experience, kind of life-changing, and I couldn't even grasp at the moment how pivotal it was, where I had always seen this fog in my life. I'd always just kind of felt like everything was a little foggy. Like what I now understand is like my third eye was very in this fog. And I was slowly starting to clear it as I was diving into self-awareness, healing of the self, spirituality. And so as I opened to these things, I was in this breathwork ceremony, and what I literally saw, which I was completely aware of my physical body and doing this repetitive breath work as I was laying down, what I literally saw was myself come out of the fog, and these beings, humans, gods, goddesses, what I would call my spirit guides, come out of the fog. And there were like 12, 13, something around there. And a bunch of them were like in like the shadows of the fog, and I couldn't really see them. But 3 very distinctly stepped out of the fog and showed themselves to me. Specifically one, a woman, an Indian woman, dressed in Hindu clothes, in this red, beautiful wrap dress with a long, dark braid going down the back of her neck, long, dark, gorgeous hair, and a red dot in the middle of her forehead. I remember she was gorgeous, and she had like gold trim, and I was just like, wow. And at this point in my life, hadn't been to India, never experienced Hinduism, never researched Hinduism. I don't even know if I knew anybody that was from India. Like, I did not know anything about that culture at all, completely oblivious. But based on what she was wearing, I could understand that was where she was from. And so I went through this crazy experience where my guides were telepathically communicating with me. They weren't using their words, but I was understanding. And in the fog too, I could see like so many other shadows of people, understanding those were like my ancestors that were there to support me as well. And so my guides told me to jump into all of a sudden a volcano appeared out of the clouds, the fog that I was in. They told me to jump into the volcano. Jumped into the volcano. I'm like laying in the lava. They tell me to let my body dissolve, let go, trust, have faith. I do that, and then I shoot up as lava into the stars. And then all of a sudden I'm just surrounded in darkness and stars, and these gorgeous stars everywhere. And this Hindu woman, this Indian woman appears again, and she's with me in the stars, and I ask her, what is your name? And she spells her name for me in the stars, Arna, Arna. And at this point, never heard that name before. I had no idea. I was like, what? Cool, great. And so she takes my hand, and we go down to earth, and we fly over the earth, and we're flying over all these cities. And I remember flying over the city of New York. And as we flew over, the whole city turned into this like dots of this blue light everywhere. And this blue light is something I had seen before, like years and years and years and years and years ago. I remember when I first started getting into meditation, I remember going deep into a meditation and seeing inside myself I had blue light, and coming to after the meditation and being like, that was weird. Whatever. Like, didn't think anything of it. It took many experiences for me to realize all the layers to life. And so I'm in this, back to my breathwork ceremony, we're flying over the whole world, and everything's turning to all these dots of blue light. It's as if I understood in that moment that she was showing me that every living conscious thing was this blue light, and that it was all the same blue light, and that the whole world, everybody was the same. We were all one. We were all came from the one source. And that I instantly understood. I was like, okay, we are all the same. We are all one. We are all the same blue light. It took me many, many years to come to non-duality and really deeply understand that concept, which I can do a whole video about that. But this was my breathwork ceremony. And so still didn't think anything special was about me. I didn't think I was anything special. I was just like, or I didn't think I had any abilities. I was just like, wow, crazy. That was wild. I just met my spirit guides. I remember like freaking out and calling my friend afterwards when I was alone in Colombia traveling, and I called my friend. I was like, wow. And he was like, wow, that's wild. Anyways, shout out Nico. Love you. And then I slowly started having more experiences. I started traveling more, and again, you have all these serendipitous experiences. Once you believe in serendipity, once you believe that the universe is here to support you and is guiding you, and to trust that path and the magic of the universe. I see this like sun slowly creeping up on me. Once you understand those things, the more they start to happen, right? Which is a beautiful reminder for myself right now to just always got to remind ourselves of these things. But I was in Mexico, and I had this random woman come up to me, and she's like, I think you need this podcast. I also had another random person hand me a book. Wild. Anyways, and so I get this podcast, and it's called Spirit Speakers, which shout out to Spirit Speakers. Check them out. They're amazing. On Spotify. And so I started to really get into these two psychic mediums, and they would talk about different things in spirituality from two different psychic vantage points. And I really love them. And I dove into their podcast, and it really helped me understand a lot of things, which I think started to open me more. Because again, we are the creator of our own realities. Our beliefs create our reality. So the more that we can open and believe in these things, the more we will experience them. But again, it's all also tied to our worth. If we think that we're worthy of these things, then we will experience them. It's also, and then fear blocks them, right? And so it's like surrendering and understanding that nothing can actually hurt us in these other realms. And that, yeah, we are the creator of our own reality. There's nothing to be afraid of. But we'll get into that in the next video. In this video, what we're talking about is that I got into these beautiful women, Judea and Patty, as the spirit speakers. And so eventually I go to their retreat in California when I was living in California. And they had this amazing retreat up in Humboldt County. And I was super excited. I was like, yeah, I get to meet the psychic medium, super cool. And I'm super excited to just camp in nature and just like see where this goes. And so I came from a background, my original career, my first career was a filmmaker. I lived in Los Angeles, worked in the film industry for a very long time. I've met many, many, many famous people. To me, I have a unique sense or a unique understanding of famous people, okay? And so these two psychic mediums from Spirit Speakers, not necessarily they were famous, but I was at a retreat for them. Everybody that was there was for them. And so to the people in the retreat, they were like famous. And they should be famous. They're amazing. Shout out to them again. And so I very much like stayed back. Patty and Judea would spend the whole day throughout each day of the retreat, just giving and teaching and explaining and all these beautiful things. And you could see that they're just like using a lot of energy, right? And so at the end of the day, everybody else would kind of flood them and just hound them with questions. And I just understood, like, I see how much they're giving. So I understand that I already feel like I'm receiving enough. I don't want to go take this opportunity to take full advantage and ask them a million questions. So I kind of give them their space. But at the end of the retreat, Judea and Patty go around to each person individually to hug them and thank them. And Judea is they're both extremely gifted, but Judea has a strong gift of sight. She sees things. And so the whole retreat, she was wearing sunglasses, and she was very open and honest about this. Like, hey guys, I wear sunglasses. It's something that makes me energetically kind of get to disconnect a little bit more, so I'm not just walking around seeing things 24/7. And so Patty comes, hugs me, walks away. Judea comes up to me, takes off her sunglasses, and looks at me, and she's like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "My name's Heather." Like, I was like super starstruck. Okay, even though I'd like fucking met Beyonce and Justin Timberlake, I was over here like, but it's Judea, like big fan. And I was just like, "My name's Heather," and she was just like, "Because you have one of those auras that's impossible to ignore." And I was just like, "I don't know what that means, but thank you." That's not what I said to her. I don't even remember what I said to her, but so having these types of experiences, having these people come to me and tell me these things, having visions, and these things are happening to me in my life, and still I could not admit that anything was special about me. Nothing was different and unique. And I'm not saying that you're not psychic because you're not having these experiences. I was very slowly opening to these things, okay? It took me a long time to go on this path on my own without having anybody explain to me how to open to these abilities. And so these things very slowly happened to me as I slowly opened. And so my point of explaining all these different scenarios is that how deeply ingrained it is in us that we're unworthy, or that we're not special, or that these things can't be happening to us, to maybe hopefully help you on your own process. And so then, I don't even know, a year or two later, I was directing a movie again. I had a much different life in the past. And one of the women that I was working with, we were all staying together and living together in Washington for a little over a month. And she was a woman working in the film industry who also was totally aware that she was psychic and very much identified and talked about it. And so she's openly talking about it at dinner. And I remember just being like, how weird. I've never met anybody who just like walks around and talks about this. Like, it's so interesting that this has been in my reality lately, and that now I'm meeting this woman who just lives her life so confidently and so normal and chill and like living a filmmaker career. Again, the more we open to it, the more things can come into our reality, right? So, and everything's meant to be. Everything's there to guide you if we're willing to believe that things are guiding us and open to the things that are guiding us. So this wonderful woman is, we're living together. She talks about things every once in a while, but she's not really one to like draw attention. She's just living her truth and such. And so I remember one day we were talking about, at this point in my life, I was pretty spiritual, okay? I didn't accept that I was psychic, but I was very spiritual. And so we are talking about different things, astrology. At this point in my life, I'm doing astrology readings and all these different things. And so, and I forget exactly what I said to her, but I said something along the lines of, I've started to really wonder if I'm psychic. Or I've started to really wonder if I have something going on, something different. And she kind of like smiled at me and she was like, she said to me, I didn't want to just tell you this, but I've been wondering if you knew that you're psychic, because I can see your aura and you're totally psychic. And again, it's not that I was born in this, I decided to be born in this incarnation a little bit closer to these things. I definitely believe that it was part of my path to open to these things, to discover this about myself, okay? But just because people aren't coming up to you telling you about your aura doesn't mean that you're not. Like, we're all, like, if this is opening to the realm of these things, we're all born at different levels of closeness, but we all have the complete ability to get there, okay? And so I believe that I chose in this incarnation to be born a little bit more close, because I chose to go on this path to open to my abilities at a certain age and to then share about it, to gather wisdom and share it. That is very much my love in life. And so That was like the first time that somebody was like, you are psychic to me. And I was like, still didn't believe it. I still was just like, weird. Which, to be fair, we should all follow our own intuition and decide what's real for us. We don't want to decide who we are based on what other people tell us. But I was just like, weird, right? And so it was then that I decided to start to test it. That was the first time that I really thought, maybe I'm psychic. Maybe psychic abilities are possible for me. Like before then, everything else that happened to me, visions, all the things, I was just like, weird. Like literally couldn't even wrap my mind around the possibilities. And I think that that is how wildly disconnected we can believe ourselves to be. That it took years of these experiences. And anyways, this is what I'm hoping to share with these 2-part series, is to tell you you are psychic and that it is possible, and to share at least one way or multiple ways of how you can open to that, and how I opened. And so, yes, I started to finally think, what if? Finally open to possibly believing. And that was the real beginning of my journey. Because again, our beliefs create our reality, okay? And so the more that we believe something, the more things just start rapidly opening for us. And so I decided I was going to start testing it. So after directing this movie, I went to Thailand. I was living in Thailand for a little bit. And I remember it was like my second or third day, and I was literally journaling. Just finally finished this long job, this long movie I had directed. I was just flew across the world to Thailand. I had just grounded myself. And I'm sitting in this cafe, and I'm journaling for like the first time. I usually journal every day, and I'm like trying to ground myself. And I was like, was the first moment I could start to process that this woman told me I was psychic. And I was like, I'm going to test this. And so literally, it couldn't have been minutes. I think I was still journaling in this moment. And I look up, and from the front door of the cafe walks this beautiful woman, this beautiful older woman. And I was just instantly knew that I was supposed to talk to her. And something that I've come to realize about psychic abilities is that a lot of times we act like, or we can tell ourselves that they don't exist or we don't have them, because a lot of times we put different labels on them. And so there's different types of psychic abilities, right? There's clairvoyance, you can hear things, you can see things, you can get knowings, hit with like a knowing, like a knowledge. And so I have a couple different abilities, and clairvoyance and the knowings are two of mine. So seeing and knowing and energetic feeling are like my big ones. And so I was starting to understand that. I always knew that I had this really powerful, wise, I always knew that I was very connected to my intuition. Like my intuition would get these like knowings, these hits, these tell me things to do, or I would have a question, I could tap into my intuition and it would tell me what to do. And that was always best for me. And so I was very much aware of this. And so once I started to open to the possibility of being psychic, that was something that I was like testing out. And so I get this instant hit of, I need to talk to that woman. And I was just like, oh man, like, fuck. I just literally wrote in my journal that any chance I could get to test it, I'll test it. And I was like, fuck, I don't want to go walk up to this random woman I don't know and I'm in a brand new country and just start talking to her. But I was like, all right, universe. I literally just opened to it, so it's instantly happening, so I'm going to do it. So I walked up to her, got the courage, walked up to her. She was sitting and eating, and I was just like, hi, this is going to sound wild. My name's Heather, and I just had this weird feeling like I was supposed to meet you. And so I just wanted to come over and introduce myself. And she was so sweet and friendly, and she ended up being this absolutely incredible being who ended up, like, we had a very short conversation. Within it, she was like, I don't really know, I don't know why you might be called to talk to me, but I am hosting an all-women's tantra retreat this weekend, and maybe you'd be interested. And she hands me a flyer, and I was like, oh, weird. Okay, I don't really know a lot about tantra, but cool. Thank you. Thanked her, went and sat down, looked it up on the Facebook link, and it was all about healing the feminine and connecting with your feminine and connecting with these different Hindu goddesses, which if you remember back to my story a couple of moments ago about my spirit guide named Arna, who I connected with in breathwork, I came to find out after my breathwork ceremony, I Googled the name Arna. And Arna means mountain of strength, goddess Lakshmi. It is literally, if you Google it, it is like a Hindu woman's name. It's a typical Hindu woman's name that means mountain of strength or the goddess Lakshmi. And I Googled the goddess Lakshmi. Literally, she was the woman I saw. She was the exact woman I saw. Red, gold trim, long dark hair, red, like everything. And I was just like mind freaking blown. And also the name Arna means mountain of strength. Like the whole vision that I had in breathwork was them telling me to jump into this volcano and like surrender, right? Okay, so anyways. So I'm meeting this woman in Thailand, and she gives me this flyer, and she's like, check out the Tantra retreat. And coming to realize that this Tantra retreat is dedicated to the goddess Lakshmi. I shit you not. And I remember like reading it. I'm like, this literally sounds incredible. At that point in my life, I was trying to connect with my feminine more. I had become aware that I had been stuck in my masculine energy for a long time. I was trying to make friends. It was like so many things were perfectly in alignment, but I was like, I can't afford this right now. And I scroll down to the bottom of her Facebook link, and she says, side note, looking for a filmmaker. We'll do an exchange for somebody who will film things for me for this retreat. Wild. Absolutely wild. And so, needless to say, I was like, holy shit. Am I psychic? Still didn't fully believe it, okay? But I was like pretty like, whoa. And so I really started to trust and really started to open to it, and was really like pretty convinced, not fully convinced, but pretty convinced at this point. And so that's when things started rapidly opening to me. I was getting intuitive hit after intuitive hit, knowing after knowing, vision after vision. I remember sitting at dinner and having dinner with a friend, and literally I was speaking. I was mid-conversation. My eyes were open, and I had the flash of a vision go before my eyes of Egypt. It was calling me to Egypt, and I literally just went to Egypt like a month ago because of that. Because of that vision, I had a couple visions. And so my point is that I had to open to it. I had to believe it. And once I believed it, the floodgates opened. And so I then understood. I was in Thailand for a little while, and I felt really called to Bali. I felt like I literally could feel like Bali calling to me. I had like no idea why, but I was like, and this is kind of how intuition works. And everybody has intuition. Everybody has all of this, right? You have to believe it to receive it, baby. And so I had no idea why, but I was like, I know that I need to go to Bali. I feel called to Bali. Like it keeps coming into my reality. It keeps coming up, and this island's calling me. So I go, and I had this desire to like sit in solitude and sit in meditation for a few months in isolation. I was like, I just really need to like process. Like I have gone through so much the past like year and a half, 2 years. I just need to like meditate and integrate. Okay. which is really funny because I ended up meeting the love of my life in Bali. So LOL to me trying to be in solitude, but not the point. I did spend some time in solitude. The point was that what happened in Bali is what allowed me to fully accept my abilities. And so, and everybody's experience is different. Just because you haven't had these experiences yet, or you might go through life having totally different experiences, that is not, like, my experiences are not meant to be your experiences. I'm just explaining what is possible, okay? For my reality. And so what is possible for your reality and how you will experience psychic abilities, it can show up in so many different ways, and I'll get into that in the next video. Can show up in just, you will have so many different experiences, okay? And so just, you know, you don't need to go do breath work. You don't need to go to Colombia. You don't need to go to a woman's tantra retreat in Thailand. Like, those things were meant for me and my journey. All you need to do is believe, okay? And it is also really helpful in growing the belief to learn about the different levels of spirituality and the different realms, different religions, and that is what this whole YouTube channel is dedicated to. It is to teaching and sharing everything I know. Anything I don't know, I will bring in people to talk about, and it's just to share knowledge, to deepen the understanding, to deepen our beliefs, our abilities, love, life. Anyways, so Bali. So I'm in Bali, and I was starting to really understand that I was psychic, and I was having different visions in Bali, and I was started to tell, like, my two best friends at the time that I was psychic. Or I was like, I think that I might be psychic. And they were like, yeah, oh, we know you are. And I was like, but I don't, or I don't believe it. And so I didn't fully. And then I meet my beautiful partner now, my boyfriend, and I do remember how I brought up, it was kind of like, I'm like, how do I tell somebody this? But we were in a group of friends one day, and I just started talking about seeing entities and things, and does anybody else see these things, blah, 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 blah. And then he was like, and this beautiful man, super spiritual, super open, was not into mysticism before me, was not into, like, these levels, did not understand or know, they weren't in his reality, which since then, because he believed me, he then opened his own abilities. Anyways, so what was like the final thing for me was, in this experience of Bali, was having other people believe me. Okay? That was like my biggest fear. I was like, is everybody just gonna think I'm fucking crazy? Am I gonna lose everyone that I love? And so my two best friends believing me, my partner believing me. And then what happened next was probably the most life-changing experience of my life, which took me a while to realize. These things will take time to process and integrate, and I'm still learning more and more about that experience. I was having breakfast one day with my boyfriend, and having somebody there that believes you and makes you feel safe and also kind of holds you accountable, because, like, sometimes when I have visions, I'm like, I don't want to do this right now. I have a list to get to. I have shit to do. I gotta work. Like, I don't feel like going into this right now. I don't feel like learning or healing. Like, sometimes you just don't go into it. And so having somebody else there to witness me, like, really held me accountable to releasing my fear, to creating the time and the space. And I really would highly recommend it as these things start to open to you, because they can really change your life, and they're meant to. And so I'm with this partner that's making me feel safe and helping me to hold myself accountable. And I remember eating breakfast, and he had made cacao, ceremonial cacao, which I can explain in another video if you don't know what it is. But it's just a chocolate drink that is also plant medicine, but it doesn't really help my case. But you don't feel anything. It's just supposed to open energetically your heart, and it does. It's really beautiful, but it's not like a hallucinogenic or anything like that, okay? And so I just remember staring at the cacao and like seeing all the bubbles in the cacao, and I was just like, reality feels like it's shifting on me. And that's when I start to know, when I start to feel different. Like when I'm in the 3D human realm, because I can open, I notice in life my abilities go like this based on how dense I am in the moment, based on how worried am I about material belongings, how focused am I on my work, like how dense am I, how human am I, versus how spiritual, how floaty, how trusting, how open am I. And so the denser we are, the more we stay away from things, the lighter we are, the more we open to things. And so, man, I can only imagine this light's got to look a little wild on me, but thanks for bearing with me. I'm in a flow state, so we've just been going. But so I felt my reality start to shift. I felt myself I was like feeling literally physically lighter. I was feeling almost a little dizzy. Like I felt like things were literally like kind of shifting. It's not that I was kind of seeing it, but it's hard to explain. Not like hallucinations where like the world is literally changing. It's like, it just felt like energetically, like things were shifting. The weight of things, gravity almost. And so I was like, something's happening. And then I could feel, I was like, I think something's trying to contact me. And my boyfriend puts a pillow behind me and like helps me to like, we're like at the fucking breakfast table and I'm like, how do I surrender right now? But I was like, okay, I'm going to try. And I close my eyes and I go in and I can see with my third eye, because clairvoyance is one of the things that I have connected to, that there is this like blue being, blue skinned, bald, gorgeous woman in really cool clothes, like with kind of like wings. And she was like floating above me with like her arm out. I still remember her positioning, her clothes, everything. She's so funny. I can see the clock and it says 5:55. Anyways, this beautiful being, and I'd never seen anything like her. And at that time in my life, I felt as if I was experiencing fairy energy. And so I was like, oh, maybe it's a fairy trying to talk to me. And so I'd never seen one at that point. And so she's like floating above me, holding her arm out, just with this light, beautiful, like knowing smile, warm and inviting, asking me to come with her. And I'm like telling my boyfriend, I'm like, she wants me to go with her. But like, he's like, go. And I'm like, I can't. Like, it's so fucking hard. Like, it's so hard to surrender in those moments because your mind is like, this shit's crazy. You're seeing shit. That's not real. You're imagining it. It's like, which is what really holds us back from our beliefs, okay? From our abilities. And so it's like the density of my mind and my humanness is like trying to ground me. I'm even having thoughts of like, I have work to do. I have things to get to. I don't have time for this. My boyfriend probably thinks I'm fucking crazy. Like all of these limiting beliefs, okay? But then also this knowing inside me. And this woman who's just so patient and loving and knowing. Like she felt like my fucking sister. Like wow. I just felt so connected to her. I was just like, I love her. I was like, I don't want to lose this connection. I want to speak to this woman. I'm trying so hard. I fucking must have sat there for like 30 minutes. Couldn't do it. I couldn't let go. I couldn't let go of my beliefs and let myself go into it. And so, but I did get her name. I don't know why I always have this calling to ask them their name. She told me that I wasn't going to understand her name in her language. But that, and again, this is telepathic. Their lips aren't moving. I'm just like telepathically asking them questions and they're just telepathically answering. And it's just like, it's like a conversation. It feels like we're literally having a conversation like you and I, but their mouth isn't moving. And like, instead of it taking time for me to say the sentence, it's just like instant. Like I just instantly know the sentence and then I instantly answer. It's just, poof. Anyways, it's timeless. It's beautiful. But so, I am wondering if I'm getting really dark on camera. So magic. Just kidding. I just used to be a filmmaker. Anyways, the powers of editing and camera control. Anyways, so wow, it's interesting telling this story because I don't think I've told many people this story. But so I couldn't surrender. She told me her name. She told me I wouldn't understand it in her language. She told me telepathically that her name, actually, I don't think I should share her name. Sorry, guys. Doesn't matter. But yeah, something doesn't feel right about sharing her name, which is cool. It's not a part of the story. And so anyways, and poof, I'm magic. And bam, another psychic ability. No, just kidding. I was also a filmmaker. Power of editing and camera control. But so, yes, so we were telepathically communicating. She told me her name. I was struggling to really go into the vision. And so I just finally got frustrated enough and came out. And I remember coming out and still feeling like reality was like almost holographic. And everything felt really light. I felt really light. And it wasn't that I was like dizzy, like your normal dizzy, like lightheaded, but it was like I was very ungrounded. And so I was like, told my boyfriend, I was like, I'm going to go outside. I need to go put my feet in the grass. I need to go like feel the earth and ground myself. And so I go out and I go into a meditation position. I try to ground myself into the earth and boom, I was instantly there. I was instantly like there, like where this beautiful woman was trying to take me. I was there. And I think there was something about like my partner, my boyfriend really helped me to trust and to go in. But I was having a hard time getting out of my mind with him there, with him watching me, right? And so by being by myself and getting into a meditation, I was just poof there. And now I'm standing in front of this, again, I'm physically aware of my body and I know that I'm sitting there in a meditation, but my eyes are closed and I'm seeing this beautiful other woman standing in front of me. And she was very similar to the first woman. She's blue-skinned, completely bald, had very specific eyes. Like I literally drew her in my sketchbook and journaled about her later. And she had this very specific like dress thing on. It almost seemed like it was like kind of a part of her body, but not really. That was like just gorgeous and long all the way down her. And she wasn't flying, she was standing. And we started telepathically communicating. And she told me, you're not going to understand this, but you are one of us. And your earth is affecting our reality. Your world is affecting our world. The world that you are incarnated in right now is affecting our world. And you are one of us. And you are there living that life for a reason. And you need to get to your purpose. Like, not necessarily your purpose, I don't want to say, because I really think our purpose is just experiencing, being, living. That is the whole purpose, is to have experiences and therefore raise our consciousness by having experiences. But she was like, you are there living this life for a reason. You came for a mission to do something, get to it. And at that point in my life, I was so close to pursuing my mission, but I was so afraid. I had spent most of my life in complete fear of living my truth, of sharing myself authentically. And I had spent my entire life creating for other people as a filmmaker, making everybody else's movies, sharing everybody else's stories, making everybody else's art, not my own. I had a lot of fear, a lot of worthiness issues, a lot of fear of being seen. And so that was what I was struggling with in the moment. I was really working on making a turning point then, but I was just still like, the closer you get to that change, it's like the thicker the fear gets, the harder it's, because you're really got to go through it then. You're like facing it, right? And so this woman tells me this. She's like, it's time. Get to it. Stop avoiding it. And I'd asked her a couple other questions, and we sat there and talked for a brief moment. And then, like, I remember coming to and, like, opening my eyes, which again, in all of these experiences and all these visions that I've had, I am super aware of my physical body. Like, I'm super aware that I'm in my physical body, but I am completely visually seeing something totally different. And I remember, like, walking through the grass after that and literally feeling like these, like, huge, like, wings dragging behind me, but not like angel wings, like I don't even know how to describe it, okay? Like, I felt my essence of being one of them. And not that these beings even had wings. And it's just a weird experience. And so why I'm telling you this is because that's what it took for me to finally fully realize and admit to myself that I was psychic. Before then, I was like, told my two friends and my boyfriend, like, weird things keep happening. I keep literally seeing things. I can talk to things and things come and talk to me. And I don't know, like, it's weird. Like, can you do that? Like, you can't do that? Like, weird. And it's not that they couldn't do that. It's that they had never experienced it before. They didn't believe in it. They weren't open to it, okay? Because the more I talk to this, the reason that I really felt called to share these things with people is that, with here on this channel, is that the more that I share about this and the more that I explain other people what happened to me, and the more that they start to believe in it, the more they open to their abilities and the gifts that were meant for them in this life, okay? And I'm just like, wow, how beautiful and magical. But my point with sharing this, I don't know, hour-long video is that experience where I met these blue-skinned beings, which I came then months later. Like, I'm still slowly figuring out that vision, but it took me months later to seeing an image of a starseed, an alien, for me to realize what the fuck I saw that day in Bali. Because after I had that vision, I had no idea what they were. I spent months thinking that these beings were fairies, because I was like, oh, there's fairy energy in Bali. I feel fairy energy, like, and the one had wings, like, they must be blue fairies. Like, I've never seen a fairy. Wow, cool. Like, I'm a fairy. Um, Anyways, and so months later, so again, I had a vision about something I'd never experienced before. I'd never seen, was completely not in my reality. The same thing with my Hindu spirit guide. I'd never experienced her before, and then came to realize that Lakshmi exists, and she's exactly like that, and Arna means Lakshmi, and all of these crazy freaking things. Totally not my reality before. And it took me having these experiences of something that wasn't in my reality, having a vision of it, and then later that being affirmed and my mind being freaking blown, for me to finally accept that I have psychic abilities, to finally accept that psychic abilities exist. And that is how much we are ingrained in our beliefs, that it's doesn't exist, or it can't be me, or I should be afraid. And so that is my point. My point is that all I suggest of you is just to open to yourself, open to the possibilities of could this exist, and start to pay attention to the things that open to you and the serendipities that called to you, and keep believing and trusting and testing it, because it will slowly open to you and you will start to have these experiences, and wow, it's magical. To wrap up my story in full transparency, this will be, I think, the first time I'm ever saying this on camera. I came to realize that I am a starseed. I'm not quite sure yet if I'm an Arcturian or a Andronomine, I think is the one, because they're both blue-skinned beings and they both have different qualities, or if you Google them, Google tells me that they both have different qualities of, that like are like a combination of what I saw in my vision. But months later, I came to realize, because I was looking up a book, and this book popped up with an image of an Arcturian alien, And it looked exactly like the second woman I saw. And I remember shouting across the house to my boyfriend, "You have to come look at this. What the fuck?" I was like, "That's what I drew. That's exactly what I drew. That's what they look like. This is crazy." I was like, "What?" I've been thinking I was a blue skin fairy for months. I was like, "What is this? What is a starseed? What does that mean?" Went down a whole tunnel of that to come to realize that I'm a starseed. I am a alien. That sounds really crazy, but here we are. I fully believe that. I'm here on this channel to be authentic in myself, and I am a high frequency, a high dimensional being from another planet, another universe that just came and answered the call to come here on Earth and incarnate as a human to share wisdom. And that is my mission. And so here I am. This is the channel that I'm doing that. Please feel free to reach out with any questions if you're having. I've met a lot of people that starting to open to starseeds. There's a lot of starseeds out there. Everybody has psychic abilities. You don't have to be a starseed to have them. We all have the frequency and the ability to access these things because they exist, because they are real, because we all have a beautiful energetic chakra system and energy in general. We all have a third eye. We all have the ability to have these abilities. So please feel free to reach out with any questions that you have, anything you want clarity on, any other videos you have. I do offer coaching because that comes purely from my heart of wanting, again, to share wisdom. And yeah, I also have a course out right now. Sign-ups end in about a week. It's called WAYFINDER. It is all about healing ourselves on every level of being, physical, emotional, energetic, past, future, everything, in order to release all of our blocks, all of our energetic blocks, in order to fully create our reality, because our beliefs create our reality. And yeah, those signups end, I think, August 2nd. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check that out. And so keep an eye out for part 2, which will be all about opening to your own psychic abilities. Thank you very much for joining me in this long video and watching the sunset with me. I send you all so much love and have a beautiful rest of your day.